Hello and welcome back to J.P.s World of Wrestling. I am your man J.P. and today we are talking about WCW. That's right, WCW, but we're primarily talking about their action figures. WCW action figures. So, in the early 90s, Eric Bischoff, before he kind of took over as executive producer, he was sort of in charge of marketing. And he made a deal with Galoob to make WCW action figures. And Galoob came out with these. These were kind of to counter the WWF Hasbro figures. But these are kind of my top WCW figures. And so for a while, Galoob made these figures. I think they made like 2 series. And then they had some UK exclusive figures that came out over there. But yeah, there's Barry Windham and Sting, and I got some other ones over here. There's some ones I'm not going to show you because they're in the other room. I recorded the big pay-per-view event thing with the action figures, so you'll probably enjoy that. There's a twist at the end. I won't give it away, though. So, so Galoob figures, I liked them. That was probably one of my all-time favorite action figure series. I wished that they had made them for a little bit longer, but that's the way it goes. And then WCW stopped making action figures for a while. And then a few years later, when Hulk Hogan came to the company, they started making these bigger, hard vinyl rubber figures. And these are original San Francisco toy maker figures by the original San Francisco Toy Maker Company. And these are pretty good figures. The only thing I don't like about these figures is the paint would easily come off on these like you can see Big Bubba here. Well, you can't really see it from there, but trust me, he's kind of marked up there. You can kind of see it there, but he's kind of marked up there. The paint easily comes off on these figures when you try to wrestle with them. So, but these are good figures. I like these. I like these a lot. I didn't like how the ring was a little bit too small. The ring that they made with those. Actually, this modern ring here, other than the ropes being a little bit too small, actually works pretty good with those. So, and somewhere I have a Kevin Nash figure, but original San Francisco toy makers, easy for me to say, went from making these to hard plastic ones where the arms kind of moved and the waist kind of moved. And somewhere I've got a Kevin Nash figure where he's got this little thumb thing on his back where you're supposed to put your thumb there and move it back and forth. And as you're moving back and forth, his arms go like this. I don't know what that's for or how that's fun to play with. I don't know. Obviously, I never used that. But I mean, I collected those. I thought they were fun. But then original San Francisco toy makers came out with these weird action figures with this button in the side where you push them and the figure would vibrate. Like, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to even speculate as to why that was a thing. And actually, I was listening to Eric Bischoff's podcast, 83 Weeks, and one time Conrad Thompson asked him about that, and Eric just laughed. He's like, I don't know what we were thinking. I don't know what the idea was. I couldn't tell you what in the world the button was for. I don't know. So, anyway, eventually, so then they made like a smaller version of those figures that were kind of this size, but the arms moved. But then eventually, original San Francisco toy maker stopped making those. And then once again, WCW had to find somebody to make their action figures. So then, Toy Biz came onto the scene and started making WCW action figures. Now those were, I didn't really like those. I had a few of them, but I found a way to use them with the Jakks Pacific figures for the WWF, but they were a little bit too posable for me. If I'm trying to play with them, I'm trying to have a match or whatever, it's having fully posable figures, in my opinion, kind of gets in the way. Now, I eventually got to a point where I could actually use fully posable figures and actually do pretty good with them, but that's because my first wife kept bringing them home. She kept bringing them home to me, and so she'd want me to have matches for her. Because she was a wrestling fan, so she'd want me to have little action figure matches. Anyway, so yeah, Toy Biz figures for WCW. Some of them were okay. Others were like questionable. Like they had a Diamond Dallas figure where it was like this. His pose was permanently like that. Then when he squeezed the legs together, it would go like that. But then when he'd release the legs, they'd go back up like that in the diamond cutter. And I think they were using him for like that posability factor, but I don't think they were really to the understanding that kids are actually going to be playing with these toys. And therefore you got to make them practical and easy to use, but I don't know. So those figures were okay. But those figures, they came out with a couple of different rings. They came out with the Monday Nitro action ring, which was like a regular sized ring, but in the center it had like this little spring thing with like a little button that had like I don't know, like a launcher on the side. I don't know. It was weird. And it came with like this entrance way with the WCW logos on the side, and then the light up archway thing where it would play the WCW music as the wrestlers would come out. And it was actually kind of a cool setup. And I think it came with like a Goldberg figure or something. And then WCW came up with the WCW Nitro ring. It was just a regular like black ring with I think the ropes were black, but the turnbuckles were red and anything. Anyway. But yeah. So WCW action figures, were a thing for a while. But then when WCW went out of business, obviously, they stopped making WCW action figures. But now, with Mattel, since Mattel owns WCW, they can make WCW action figures. So if you're into the modern figures and you're into, WWF versus WCW, the world is your oyster as far as wrestling figure collecting. So that's a kind of a brief history of WCW action figures. Next, I will probably start talking about the WCW WWF Monday Night Wars. So that is going to do it for this video. So if you are new, please feel free to like and subscribe. You know the deal. And I will see you next time.